The Cardinals stood their ground in the bottom half of the inning, giving them a 6-5 win and a 4-2 West Coast record as they hit the trail. There was trouble in Candlestick Park, where the cold winds added to the chill left by 3 straight San Francisco victories. The only warmth generated by the Cardinals came in the second game of the series on September 4th, when Lonnie Smith burned a path around the diamond by stealing 5 bases in 9 innings to tie a modern National League record. No time to pout about those 3 defeats, though, as it's home to St. Louis to face the threatening Montreal Expos. The Cards won 2 of 3 in the crucial series, almost unbelievably escaping with 2 1-0 victories. Darned if the Redbirds didn't turn right around and lose 2 of 3 to the last-place New York Mets. The St. Louis lead had been whittled down to 1 half game. Now was the stuff of which pennant races and baseball legends are made, as it was on to Philadelphia for a head-to-head confrontation with a team that was nipping at the Cardinals' heels. It was Carlton and Forsch in the first game on September 13th, and both were sharp. Each pitcher went the distance, giving up only 3 hits, but Carlton struck out 12, and the Phillies managed to edge by the Cardinals 2-0 and move into first place by a half game. The next night, it was Stupor versus Krukow. There was no scoring until the 4th, when Darrell Porter straddled the plate after a George Hendrick walk.
Porter, a long one into right. Way back, and Darrell Porter has just hit a 2-run homer to put the Cards on top. A 1-ball, 2-strike delivery. Krukow took a little off. Porter timed him, and he puts the Cards on top with his 9th home run of the year.
The game wasn't over yet. In the bottom of the 8th, the Phillies loaded the bases, creating an incredible clash between baseball's premier relief pitcher, Bruce Sutter, and one of baseball's best hitters, Mike Schmidt. The count went to 2-2. Sutter brought it home again, and Schmidt swung. And what could have been the turning point of the entire season, Sutter fielded a ground ball and threw home to start a 1-2-3 double play. That play seemed to haunt the Phillies the next night, as they were shut out by Andujar and the Cardinals 8-0. Then the bright lights and glitter of the Big Apple were beckoning at the next stop on the journey, but Cardinal thoughts were on the pennant race. The Phils was still lurking 1.5 games behind the first-place Cardinals, and St. Louis was facing a back-breaking schedule, 5 games to play in 3 days against the Mets. To make matters worse, the first game of the weekend series was pushed into extra innings after Eric Rasmussen had held off the Mets for 7 innings. But Willie McGee saw to it that the game would not be a long affair.
McGee waits. Allen checks and fires. Curveball, line drive into center field. Here comes Mookie Wilson. He dives. He can't get it. It goes by him. Here comes Hernandez in to score. It's 3-2. Hendrick goes to third. McGee into second base. Willie McGee with a key double to put the Cards on top.
The 3-2 extra inning victory propelled the Cardinals to a 7-1 shellacking of the Mets in the nightcap that evening. Momentum was clearly on the Cardinals' side. They swept the next 3 games with the Mets and headed triumphantly home, having achieved a 7-1 record on the road in the heat of a pennant race. But more important than that, in a span of 7 days, St. Louis had gone from 1/2 game out of first place to 4.5 games on top. With 13 games remaining, it was home sweet home to meet the Phillies again on September 20th. The Cardinals won their 8th straight game that night by a 4-1 score. The much-maligned pitching staff had given up only 7 runs in that 8-game period to put the Cards in the catbird seat. The late-season winning streak ended the next night as it began. Carlton struck out 14 this time, and the Cardinals went down 5-2 to Philadelphia. But the Phillies were on the verge of elimination. The Cardinals could taste the champagne now. September 22nd, going into the bottom of the 8th, Pittsburgh and St. Louis had 1 run each. Then Steve Braun connected for the 6th hit in his last 8 pinch hit appearances. It was a double, and it sparked a Cardinal rally. Moments later, with Landrum running for Braun, Tom Herr was up.
With 1 out, Landrum at second. The pitch to Tommy Herr. Line drive fakes it into left field. Here comes Landrum around third. Here comes the throw. He is saved. The Cardinals lead 2-1. Down to second base goes Tommy Herr.
A 2-1 victory, a 5.5 game lead, and just 10 games remaining. The Cardinals lost to Pittsburgh the next night, but their lead was still 4.5 games, and the magic number was 6. Chicago was in town on the 24th, and things were knotted at 1 in the 8th when Gene Tennis came to the plate with the bases loaded. Gene Tennis with the bases loaded and 1 out. Well, what will it be, a grand slam or a double play or something in between? Kerr's at third, Hernandez at second, and Hendrick at first, and Tennis is batting for Porter, who drove in the first Cardinal run. He bats against Willie Hernandez, and the first pitch is coming. Swing and a fly ball into deep right. Durham's going to catch it. We're going to have a play. There's the catch. Hurst trying to score. The throw, he is safe.
What an argument we
And
had.
Moreland's all over the plate umpire. Moreland swears that he tagged him, and he certainly had the ball, but the Cardinals lead 2-1. St. Louis added another run and won that game, and now the lead was back up to 5.5 games. The next night, Joaquin Andujar threw his third three-hitter of the year, and the Cubs were beaten by a 5-1 score. The magic number was now 3 with 8 games left. The Cardinals lost 6-1 to the Cubs on the 26th, but the Phillies lost also, reducing the magic number to 2. There was a lot to think about the next day on the long flight from St. Louis to Montreal, where the Cardinals had won only 2 of 7 games in 1982. September 27th, and Dave LaPointe was on the mound for the Cardinals. But the game that loomed as quite a battle was over almost before it began. After doubling to left with 1 out in the first, Ken Oberkfell scored on a single by Dane Orge. Darrell Porter was up next, and he drew a walk, turning things over to Willie McGee. Willie McGee against Bill Gullickson. The pitch coming. Swing and a fly ball into left center. Dawson on the run, on the run, on the run. He can't get it. The ball goes to the wall. 2-run score. McGee may circle the bases. They bring him around third base. He's trying to score. The throw home. He is safe. And inside the park, home run, and the Cardinals lead 4-0. That was all the scoring that was needed. LaPointe gave up 2 runs before being lifted in favor of Suter. With the Phillies having lost to the Cubs that night, a save by Suter would clinch the division championship for the Cardinals for the first time since the divisions were established in Major League Baseball in 1969. Players and fans alike hung on the edge of their seats as they watched Suter work. The Cardinals leading by the score of 4-2. They are 1 out away from being the division champs for 1982. And then we'll be playing at home next week against the Western Division winner. The pitch. A ground ball to third. Oberkfell has it. Throws. That's it. The Cardinals have won it by the score of 4-2. And that one is for Mr. Busch, for Butch Yotkeman, for Ken Boyer, for all of the Cardinal fans who have been so loyal this year, setting an all-time home attendance record. And the Cardinals have won it here tonight. It was a fitting ending to the season, what with Bruce Suter picking up his 36th save of the year. The Cardinals' bullpen, led by engine number 42, was the difference between a 4th-place finish and a 1st-place finish for the Cardinals. Besides Suter, outstanding support came from Doug Baer, and the ageless one, Jim Cott, extricated the team from many a tight spot, as did John Martin and Jeff Lottie. Overall, Cardinal relievers won or saved more than half of the team's 96 victories. And you can't say enough about the Cardinals' front line pitching. Up until the time they won the pennant, the team never lost more than 3 games in a row, and they posted the second-best earned run average in the National League. Joaquin Andujar was overpowering down the stretch, recording 29 2/3 consecutive scoreless innings and a 1.64 ERA during 7 straight wins. Bob Force started the season with 5 straight wins and went on to his best campaign since 1977. John Stuper, called up from Louisville after the season began, displayed maturity beyond his years and tremendous determination to win. Steve Mura had the team's second longest individual win streak with 6 in a row. And Dave LaPointe, the Cards' only left-handed starter, extended his record of never having had a losing season in professional baseball. Questionable pitching staff, the critics had said 6 months earlier. Well, Cardinal fans knew otherwise. And now the only question remaining was, which team would St. Louis meet in the National League playoffs?